Hello and welcome to Paul for Peace to All, where we believe that positive change is leading us to a brighter future. While we're now well into 2021, I am so excited to share 50 of my favorite uplifting stories for the health and well-being of life on Earth that I collected throughout each month of 2020. So if you think that 2020 was all doom and gloom, I am happy to share that there is so much to be thankful for environmentalists and just lovers of the life on this planet, because challenging times lead to the most growth, and I truly believe that 2020 was the beginning of a huge transformative era for the entire world, filled with new innovations and positive changes that are coming. There's so much good news to share here, so I'm gonna get right into it. And since I started working on this a little late into 2020, I'm gonna call this first month Janu-Feb-March. Alright, story number one. The Australian forests are already recovering. Right at the beginning of the year, only a month after the bushfires that seemed to completely destroy the forests in Australia, photographers were showing that there were areas where fresh new plant life was growing. Just seeing this new birth of life growing from the ground inspired so many. And this good news of regrowth really demonstrates just how resilient life is. Even when it seems like everything is destroyed, new life starts popping back up. And it's just so great to see that. It's a beautiful reminder that environments that seem to have been destroyed by human activity really are capable of recovering and thriving once again. Good news number two. The world's largest investor is protecting the planet. Larry Fink is the CEO and chairman of the world's largest asset management company, so he controls trillions of dollars, and he's telling all the CEOs of the companies he invests in that climate change is actually going to be the main focus of what he invests in, which makes sense because climate change is going to have a significant and lasting impact on economic prosperity and growth, and even for people who are just focused on finance, awareness of this is growing rapidly. This good news shows how more and more investing companies and financial planners are moving away from supporting things that harm our future in an effort to bring more sustainable economic health, which also happens to be interconnected with improving the health of our world. Story number three. The people of Madagascar planted 60 million trees. They celebrated the nation's 60th birthday with its largest ever tree planting ceremony, planting 1 million seedlings in just a few hours. They're planning to plant 60 million trees for the benefit of future generations and encouraging everyone to protect the rainforest and the environment. The state is going to recruit guards to protect and monitor the young plantlings, and Madagascar's indigenous communities inspired, educated, and trained both the government and rural communities to see themselves as forest protectors. Fast-growing fruit and spice trees are being planted to improve the economic well-being of Madagascar, which will help them move away from their reliance on deforestation. This good news shows how a uniquely biodiverse nation is learning from past mistakes and coming together in an attempt to sustainably improve the well-being of animal, plant, and human life in their forests. Good news number four. 8 million pounds of waste were pulled from the sea. 4Ocean is a public benefit corporation that promises to pull a pound of trash from the ocean for each product they sell, and as of February, they had pulled 8 million pounds out of the ocean. They're expanding their cleanup operations and working with local communities around the world to change their plastic consumption habits, which is the only way to really sustainably stop plastic pollution at its source. Stop buying and producing single-use plastic. This good news shows how we are developing the ability to remove non-biodegradable plastic from the ocean, giving hope that once all the plastic we use in our daily lives is safely biodegradable, we'll be able to recover so much of the beauty of the ocean from our past and current mistakes. Good news number five. Anyone can help save the bees. In order to help dwindling honeybee populations, ecologists are encouraging people to learn to love weeds. Keeping plants that are considered as weeds, such as dandelions or buttercups in our yards, can directly help insects, plants, and birds, improving biodiversity and environmental health. Really anything we can do to be more pollinator friendly, from gardening to buying certain potted plants to just leaving weeds in peace, will help support the health of our local ecology and all that we rely on to not only survive but thrive. And there's plenty of scientific evidence now that shows how acting kindly towards nature will repay us many times over through a wide variety of both physical and psychological effects. So this good news reminds us of how easy it can be to protect and save our local ecology simply by being mindful of the benefits that the life growing around us has to offer. Alright, now on to April 2020, and good news story number 6. Pennsylvania plans to convert 10,000 acres of lawns into meadows and forests. Since lawns pretty much have no value to wildlife, are difficult to maintain, and seem to do a lot more harm than good, Pennsylvania launched a campaign to convert 10,000 acres of mowed grass into meadows or forests by 2025 in areas that drain into the Chesapeake Bay. Resource materials and how-to guides are also being released to help any landowner convert their lawn on their own. This good news shows us the importance means of replacing open areas of land with native plants and trees, and reminds us that these important changes are being understood and prioritized now more than ever. Story number 7. Cleaner air allows solar panels to generate record high energy. 3 of Europe's biggest economies, Germany, Spain, and the UK, achieved new records in solar generation. The coronavirus-related shutdowns, along with ideal weather, helped cause a drop in air pollution that cleared skies and boosted solar energy generation. This good news is a good example of how countries all over the world are relying less on fossil fuels and more on renewable energy. Good news number 8. There's a zero waste delivery service that's expanding to all of the US. You might have heard of the startup Loop, which partners with big brands to provide reusable packaging, saw record sales in March and April as people switched from shopping in stores to shopping online. When you use something and the container is empty, you simply schedule a pickup and you send the container back to be fully sanitized so that someone else can use the container, eliminating the waste involved in traditional packaging. This good news provides just a peek into how packaging waste will be eliminated from e-commerce in the future, and shows how consumers are increasingly happy to make this change for the health of our planet. Good news number 9. Urban farming flourishes during the lockdowns. The pandemic pushed more city dwellers than ever before to grow fruits and vegetables in their own homes. When the supermarket shelves started to empty, many people started thinking about where their food actually comes from, inspiring the urge to be more self-sufficient. Urban farming improves nutrition and food security, lowers stress, and reduces climate change. Methods of farming like vertical farming or rooftop farming are on the rise to meet the needs of growing city populations. This good news shows how the pandemic inspired many to start growing and gaining better connections with their own food, which is an important step towards meeting the nutritional needs for growing populations around the world. Good news number 10. Community-supported agriculture is surging. Farms that are involved in community-supported agriculture are seeing massive increases in their membership following the pandemic. Members pay up front to receive produce throughout the season, and in return, CSA members regularly get boxes of fresh, local produce. CSAs have been a central part of the organic, local food movement, and revitalizes the idea that what's locally produced should be locally consumed. This good news is yet another example of how the pandemic inspired positive change, which in this case is connecting more people with fresh, local, organic produce straight from the source, allowing more to receive their food directly from local farmers. We are now at May 2020 with good news number 11. 5 new compostable, renewable bioplastics could replace plastic. New compostable bioplastics are being created from a wide variety of renewable sources to liberate us from fossil fuels and plastic waste. BioLive creates plastic from olive pits that decompose in a year, and by utilizing olive oil waste, this plastic reduces production costs by up to 90% compared to other bioplastics. Sunflower seeds, another byproduct of oil production, are also being used to create bioplastics, and there's practically an endless supply of these seeds all over the world. A mixture of fish waste and algae is being used to create stronger packaging than a typical plastic bag. Avantium created a revolutionary plants-to-plastic technology that completely transforms plant-based sugars into new biodegradable packaging material. Biodegradable, strong, water-resistant, fungal mycelia-based materials don't create any toxic byproducts and have a negative carbon footprint while outperforming leather or synthetic plastics. This good news shows how we're developing the means to affordably and realistically replace all fossil fuel-based plastic, the plastic we use in our everyday lives today, with a wide variety of compostable, renewable, and sustainable alternatives. Good news number 12. Hundreds of cities transform their streets into cycling and walking paths. The pandemic caused greenhouse gas emissions to fall by a record-breaking 8%. Since the World Health Organization labeled walking and cycling as the safest way to travel during COVID, cities around the world have been building new paths and increasing their car-free initiatives. Many of these changes to make cities more walkable and cyclable will be permanent. This good news demonstrates how the pandemic has inspired lasting changes all over the world, transforming cities to be more pedestrian and bicycle-friendly, and gives hope that this time is an opportunity to make lasting changes to the way that we navigate and interact with our environment. Good news number 13. Over 60,000 new jobs created to plant and protect trees in Pakistan. After the coronavirus left thousands in Pakistan unemployed, the government created over 63,000 jobs with the goal of planting 20 million tree saplings by the end of 2020. This is a relaunching of the nation's 10 billion tree tsunami campaign, in which 30 million trees had already been planted since 2018. These laborers are now being paid living wages as jungle workers, responsible for planting saplings and protecting trees from any illegal logging and from fires. Most of these new trees are being planted in low-income areas to help provide work for locals in these areas, and many more continue to be hired for these jobs. This government sees the pandemic as an opportunity to better focus their efforts on reducing climate change. This good news is a great example of how jobs can and should be created to help the health of both the unemployed and the environment during this time of change. Good news number 14. While tourists stay home, Australian scuba tours are planting coral. During the shutdowns, Australian tour operators are using their boats and staff to work alongside researchers restoring coral in the Great Barrier Reef. Over 1,000 pieces of coral have been rescued and replanted. There are many ways that anyone can help protect coral reefs, which are crucial to the health of the biodiversity of our oceans, by being more environmentally responsible. This good news reminds us of the importance of healthy coral reefs, and is another great example of how the pandemic provides opportunity to help improve the health of our world. Good news number 15. Community food co-ops are now thriving. While many supermarkets found themselves with empty shelves as the pandemic began, co-ops are thriving and seeing more sales than ever before, thanks to their long-term focus in building resilient food sheds. Co-ops are devoted to the local food movement, building relationships with small farmers and helping to build their community. The average co-op sources from 300 vendors instead of around 30 in ordinary grocery stores, and this diversity in their supply makes them much more resilient and reliable during uncertain times. A co-op's focus on love, kindness, care, and community are resonating with many more nowadays. This good news shows how we're moving towards successful businesses and organizations being run by all of its members, designed to serve their communities and focused on building close relationships with suppliers to reliably provide the best for their supporters. On to June of 2020, story number 16. 45 companies and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service created a program to protect the habitats and migration passageways for monarch butterflies and other pollinators that are vital for the health of our planet. Farmers, landowners, energy providers, and transportation companies, to name a few, will be working together to reduce or remove any threats, create new habitats, and maintain existing habitats annually. This historic deal will involve an estimated 2.3 million acres of roadsides and other utility lands. This good news is a huge win for environmental health and a great example of different individuals and companies all coming together to support and protect the planet for the well-being of all life. Good news number 17 is the only one that I have on this list that maybe isn't directly about helping the environment, but it's helping humans, and we are a part of this world's environment. We are not separate from nature, we are nature, and so helping people in need will provide support that allows those people to have the opportunity to make decisions that are good for the environment once they are lifted out of that place of need and into a place where they can make their own decisions. So I'd still consider it a win for the environment. A new website connects more than 100,000 people in need with those who want to help. A mindfulness teacher started an online grassroots movement in her local community to create connections between those who are struggling from the pandemic and those who want to help. Shelley wanted to turn the fearful environment into an opportunity to create community and strengthen the bonds of love between us. People all over the world were inspired by her compassion and set up their own online exchanges through her website, Pandemic of Love. This movement has raised millions of dollars for hundreds of thousands of people in need all over the world. This good news is a great example of how one person's idea and action can have a ripple effect across the entire planet, improving so many lives through the love and generosity of people all over the world. Good news number 18. Hundreds of tiny forests are being created in Europe using indigenous plants. Volunteers are growing tiny biodiverse forests in small areas within their cities by planting densely packed seedling clusters from native plants to create small functioning ecosystems that restore soil, improve air quality, protect water, and act as hotspots for biodiversity. These tiny forests favor the cooperation between species, capturing more carbon dioxide from the air and allowing trees and plants to grow up to 10 times faster and possess up to 20 times more biodiversity. Now hundreds of these tiny forests are being grown all over the world to improve environmental health. This good news gives us hope that we can revive biodiversity in urban areas by using proven methods to grow highly efficient mini ecosystems in areas that need them most. And together, these forests will have a massively positive impact on the health of our world. Good news number 19, RecycleForce provides ex-convicts with jobs to turn plastics into fuel. RecycleForce provides training, support, housing, and job opportunities to those who have fallen victim to the criminal justice system and struggle to find the support and opportunity anywhere else. Brightmark is on a mission to reimagine waste and partnered with RecycleForce to recycle electronics and plastics so that they aren't wasted in landfills or in the environment. With this opportunity, only 23% of those working with RecycleForce reoffend, compared to the 60 to 75% average in the US. This good news is both a win for the environment, because this work will recycle millions of tons of plastic that otherwise would have been wasted, and for people, since ex-convicts are given a welcoming environment that allows them to support themselves and break free from the system. Good news number 20, new pledge to restore and protect 30% of the EU's land and ocean by 2030. The European Commission made a concrete pledge to dedicate 30% of Europe's land and oceans as protected areas by 2030. The plan to raise $22 billion every year for a decade to restore damaged ecosystems, change agricultural land to support pollinators and wildlife, grow greenery in cities, reduce pollution, enhance organic biodiverse farming, and improve forest health through the implementation of stricter protections and restoration projects. This good news is a great example of how, now more than ever before, large-scale projects with massive massive amounts of money are beginning to focus on making changes that will significantly improve the health of our world. Alright, on to July of 2020 and story number 21. Costa Rica reversed deforestation by paying forests for their services. A few decades ago, Costa Rica had the highest rates of deforestation in all of Latin America, but they've now regrown nearly every lost tree through the most successful forest management model on the planet. This was made possible through their payment for environmental services, a simple strategy of valuing forest by paying for their restoration and conservation. Businesses and citizens all pay into a fund that rewards landowners for maintaining healthy forests. Rather than cutting them down for their valuable tropical agricultural products, 60% of the country is now forested once again, with 33 million put into a fund every year to ensure that forests are treated well by landowners. And now countries around the world are using this PES system due to its proven success. This good news is a great example of how, in order to save the health of our world, value needs to be placed on the natural environment for providing such valuable services to the planet, such as biodiversity or a more stable climate, to incentivize people to care for the environment rather than destroy it in order to get financial gain and in order to be wealthy and successful. Good news 22. Pakistan achieves UN climate goals a decade early. In 2030, the world's countries will all be evaluated through the United Nations 18 Sustainable Development Goals, which urges nations to all urgently take action against climate change. Pakistan, which is one of the most vulnerable nations to climate change's effects, has already met this criteria a decade early. They launched many initiatives that contributed to this success, such as the 10 billion tree tsunami project that I mentioned earlier, which gave thousands of jobs to growers and protectors of Pakistan's forests, and the Green Pakistan Index, which ranks and rewards towns and cities based on waste management, drinking water, sanitation, and tree plantation. Pakistan also has a Protected Areas Initiative, which aims to provide the best ecological management plans possible to 15% of the country through community conservation funds. The previous government actually planned to build a series of coal projects, but the current government replaced these with zero-carbon hydroelectric projects that are capable of producing much more energy than coal ever would have. This good news shows that a country with limited resources has the ability to take the lead on a world stage by simply making environmental health an urgent priority. Good news 23. Sydney, Australia is now powered by 100% renewable energy. Australia's largest city, home to over 250 million people, now sources all of its energy from a couple of solar farms and the biggest solar farm in New South Wales. This historic deal made through a power purchase agreement costed 60 million in Australian dollars, but it's expected to save $500,000 each year, purge about 20,000 tons of carbon dioxide, 70% of its total output by 2024, save rentpayers money, and support jobs on local solar and wind farms. This good news shows that a large city is already capable of running on 100% clean renewable energy by making a big investment that's worth it for the sake of our planet's well-being. Good news 24. An Indian architect developed a revolutionary new way to serve housing needs while also cleaning the air. His startup, CarbonCraft Design, with their Air Ink device, captures carbon emissions from polluted air, combines it with marble, and presses this mixture into tiles. India has the world's third largest housing industry, so these sustainable tiles help meet the demand for building materials in an environmentally friendly way. This good news is a good example of an innovation that creatively cleans the environment while also producing much needed materials for our increasing population. Good news 25. Germany bans single-use plastic and styrofoam. Germany officially announced the implementation of a ban on the sale of single-use disposable plastics and styrofoam, which will go into effect July 3rd, 2021. This plan was a part of their effort to move away from our throwaway culture, and by the end of 2022, 8 coal operations will be closed and replaced with renewable energy operations. This good news shows that a large country is now capable of removing single-use plastics and styrofoam entirely from their systems, which will allow other countries to learn from and follow Germany's lead as we move away from this throwaway era. Thank you so much for watching part 1 of Good News Planet Earth 2020. I hope all these positive stories have brightened your day, and I'll see you in part 2 of this Good News Planet Earth.